Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 231 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL, and I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You have heard him on the Saturday morning spread. It's Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great time of the sports calendar here. A little opening day for baseball just happened. Final Four's coming this weekend, and the draft is in full swing. Definitely, not even to mention, we're in WrestleMania season, Shane, as I've mentioned here a couple times. So my world's all colliding, all happening at the same time, and then the NBA playoffs start in 2 weeks. So whole lot of stuff going on, but as Shane knows, my number one focus when the month turns to April, my number one focus is the draft. I've been stacking my overalls and restacking them and doing PFF mocks, breaking down team needs. That's been my free time the last couple of days, so I'm locked in.
All right. Well, we are going to die. I was waiting on that. You haven't done the college basketball tournament and NBA playoffs coming. You haven't done that this year yet. So I was waiting on it. This is the week. Lots of sports going on. Some of us more interested in all the other sports than others. But we are going to dive into our offensive rankings for the NFL draft. Those of you that have been following along with us know we started with quarterback because it's just totally irrelevant for the Eagles and doesn't rely on the combine much. And then we went to tight end. And then once we got post-combine, we jumped over to the defensive side of the ball. So we have done quarterback rankings. We have ranked tight ends. We've ranked every position on the defense. Now we are swinging back to offense. And today we're going to cover the top 5 running backs in the 2026 class. Next week will be receivers, and then we will cap it the following week with offensive linemen. So this is probably not a position that is super intriguing for the Eagles, considering where their running back room is at. And that's something we have tried to do as we've talked about these positions, is talk about how some of these guys could be fits with the Eagles, as Mark flashes his Notre Dame pullover here, because we are going to be talking a lot of Notre Dame football today. But the Eagles, Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby, they signed Dameon Pierce, probably not in the market for a running back, at least not early, at least not with these guys we're going to talk about. So I'll give you that disclaimer up front. We're going to have a running back conversation, and to do so, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Mark's favorite college team. We're going to talk about Notre Dame, because it's not often that the top 2 players at a singular position are from the same school. And that's what we have this year with Jeremiah Love. We both have him number 1. Every draft analyst has Jeremiah Love number 1 on their big board. And number 2, Jadarian Price. And so we're going to have a conversation about these guys. I asked Mark if he wanted to lead off on Jeremiah Love, because he loves Jeremiah Love, and he told me to. So hopefully I do Mark's boy proud here. So Jeremiah Love is number 1 on both of our boards. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school with a track background. He was a state champion in the 100-meter dash. Committed to Notre Dame. Played pretty sparingly in 2023, only 71 carries, 384 yards, and a touchdown, behind Audric Estime, which is a guy that we liked. Not as much as Jeremiah Love, but he became the bell cow back over the final 2 seasons. And I use bell cow in quotes because, he could have been that, and he was definitely the lead back, but he rotated a lot of carries with Price, and we'll get to him in a minute. But he was an All-American, 3rd place in the Heisman voting in 2025. He is 6 foot tall, which is 73rd percentile height, 212 pounds, which is 47th percentile weight. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, which is 96th percentile. He has a 61st percentile 10-yard split. He's going to be just under 21 years old on draft night. In 2025, he averaged 6.9 yards per attempt, 4.5 yards after contact per attempt. He had a 28% missed tackle forced rate, and as a receiver, averaged 1.83 yards per route run. So reeled in 27 passes for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns, 199 carries for 1,372 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. So really productive year for him in 2025. He's really patient behind the line of scrimmage. Love has really good vision. He can plant a foot in the ground and explode uphill through gaps. So you can use him in sort of in a one cut zone running scheme. He's got elite top speed. I mean, 4.3 40, incredible for a running back. He's got good agility. He's got good explosiveness. He's a sudden mover who can change directions quickly once he gets into the open field. And so a lot of times you have like your backs that can make you miss, and you have your backs that can run through you. Jeremiah Love can do both, and so he really puts you in difficult situations once he's into the open field. He's a talented receiver, too. He can run routes out of the slot at times. Notre Dame used him for that. Really good ball security. Only one fumble in 433 career carries. For weaknesses, and it's really nitpicky, but it is when you have a guy this good, so we'll talk about some of them. I think he leaves his feet too frequently. He has a penchant to want to hurdle people that needs to get out of him, or it's going to get him hurt at the next level, probably. That can't be a go-to move, as Mark's laughing and shaking his head. I think, so there is a fine line between being patient behind the line of scrimmage and being indecisive. Maybe indecisive is not the right word, because I don't think it's that he's not reading things. I just think he's sometimes too patient. And at a certain point, that becomes a negative. Sometimes you just need to take what's there. And he's not like trying to bounce every run and hit a home run, but sometimes I think he's just a little too slow behind the line of scrimmage, trying to let more things develop.
Not to interrupt, but that it's such a Saquon trait of his that
yes,
and it's not just that he's looking to always bounce everything to the outside. He knows that if he gets that little hole from the guard or from the set, whatever it is, he knows he can bust that hole, and he knows he's that special, and he knows he makes it through that. It's going to be hard to get him in the open field. So it's just so hard for me to like watch Jeremiah Love and not think about Saquon.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison that Eagles fans watched last year and got frustrated with Saquon at times because it was like, just hit a hole. But he's so patient behind the line of scrimmage. And I think Saquon missed a few holes last year, but it's something with poor offensive line play, which if Jeremiah Love goes as high as we think he's going to go, he's probably going to not go to a good roster. It can start to be a bit of a detriment at times, because those holes just might not develop. But I think that's something that's probably pretty easily, I don't even know if fixable is the right word, but I just think he is a little overly patient sometimes. And then the other thing is, can he handle the bell cow workload that would be required to justify a top 5 pick at 212 pounds? The most carries we've seen him have in a year is this year, and it was still under 200 carries. And so I think that's a concern. That's a question you have to ask yourself. But then we see guys, like Jahmyr Gibbs early in his career, who was such a game changer for the Lions without being even their number one back at the time. And to be clear, he's going to be the number one back wherever he goes. But I don't know that he's a guy you're going to be able to give 300 touches to. But maybe he will. It's just something you have to project. So I've got a first round grade on him. He's a blue chip player for me. He's going to be a 3-down running back, and he's probably going to be a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I'm obviously, I can't believe I didn't plan to wear a Notre Dame hat. It's unbelievably bad job by me here. But Jeremiah is a guy who, I mean, he's quite possibly, and I think probably my favorite athlete in the history of Notre Dame of my lifetime. And so it's hard to remove biases, but I think when it comes to Love, I think the interesting conversation is really comparing him to the elite running back prospects of the last decade. And Bijan Robinson is one that people throw out there for him. Shane and I were a little lower on Bijan in that draft process, I think, speaking for Shane. And I know I was even lower than Shane was. And I mean, hey, it worked out. Like, Bijan's better than I think anyone could have even hoped. It hasn't really mattered that much for the Falcons, but he's an elite player and maybe the best running back in football. But just, I think sometimes when we go, like, I've seen people have these conversations about running back prospects and they're throwing in like Jonathan Taylor and like, oh, where's Jonathan? Where does he rank him? Like with like Jonathan Taylor as running back? It's like, well, Jonathan Taylor went like 5th, I think, or like went in the 2nd round. So it's a different conversation. If people sometimes take what you do as a professional and then apply that to the conversation of what you were as a prospect, but just as a prospect, he's in rare air to me of Zeke, Saquon, Genty level special running back prospects. To me, He's such a so I guess before I give my opinion, I'll throw it over to Shane on Genty or Love, because I think that's a conversation that everybody's going to talk about since it was last year. Genty went, what did he go, fourth? I can't remember where the Raiders picked, third, fourth, fifth, something in that range, and it looks like Love's going to go fourth. There's such different backs and such different prospects, but when you kind of watched Love comparing to when you watched Genty last year, just as a prospect, who do you think is a more special prospect?
I think, I think I would go Love, because he's got better speed, he's got better ball security. Basically, the thing that Genty has over Love is that he has demonstrated the bell cowness at Boise State. He had 374 attempts in 2024, which maybe that's a negative because you come in with more, if a guy's good, maybe I'd rather him come in with more tread on the tires, less tread taken off the tires, however you want to say that. I think for both of them, I talked about how their vision and their patience, their burst. Love definitely has a higher top speed. I think Love is probably he's a better receiving threat to Genty in 2024 wasn't used much as a receiver. He was in 2023. So if you're telling me that I can pick one of those guys, I like the upside of Love more. But the only question mark I would have is just, will he be able to sustain the workload that I knew Genty would be able to sustain?
Yeah, and it's an interesting conversation because it almost goes both ways, where Genty had that workload, but he also had the question of it like coming at Boise State and coming against the lower level. And not that Jeremiah Love's playing in a conference, obviously, but Notre Dame plays pretty much all power conference teams, and obviously played in the playoff, and Love was a big part of that playoff run on the way to the national championship. And I should have pulled up his touchdown against Penn State when we talked about he can run around guys and run through guys. I think so much conversation goes back to, he bounces it to the outside. He's so explosive. He's a 60-yard touchdown home run waiting to happen. And that's why, the Saquon comparisons are always going to be apt. But the run he had, I think I got it here. So this is bad podcasting by me. I should have had this ready to share, but here it is. This is my favorite play maybe in Notre Dame history. So if I'm ever going to have a chance to show it, I'll show it now. And this is Jeremiah Love against Penn State, tie game in the fourth quarter, national championship, trip on the line, hit, 2, 3 guys, keeps going. I mean, he's just he's a special player, and I think he's going to, even if the Titans have a lot of work to do, I'm not laughing at them taking him in this draft because that's how special he is. And I think he's the best player in this draft. The Titans should do what I generally advocate for the Titans taking a running back where they are. Probably not. But you look around at the other top talents in the draft and what they could bring and what their upside is. And I don't know if anybody's helping Cam Ward more than Jeremiah Love. Even, I've been a proponent that they should look at receiver, but if it's receiver or Jeremiah Love, I think Love might help even more.
Yeah, it's tough when your top receiving options are Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Iomanner.
Hey,
that's rough for a quarterback.
Chimere DK, respect him.
Yeah, whatever. Tough spot for Cam Ward. There's an element of that, and I remember us talking about that with Jonathan Taylor, that just sign him, even if it's to an outlandish contract, because you have a rookie quarterback at the time. And so you can afford to pay your running back more to help out Anthony Richardson some. They eventually did that, and Anthony Richardson flopped anyway. So there's an argument for just get something to help out your second-year quarterback here, and he'll certainly do that. I still just question a bad team taking a running back top 5. It seems like it never works out. We're only 1 year into the Raiders thing, but it looked bad for the Raiders last year. It was bad for the Giants when they took Saquon. And Saquon was a great player, and I think Ashton Genty's going to be a great player. I just question how if that's a good use of resources for a team with the top 5 pick. It's one thing if you're like, have a top 5 pick because your quarterback was injured and missed the whole year. You're actually a pretty decent roster, but I start to question it in situations like this. I still question it with Bijan. I mean, you look at them taking him. Of course, he went 8 instead of 4, and there's a big difference there in terms of what you actually allocated. But teams taking a running back that high, it just doesn't. And to be fair, teams taking anybody that high, it probably doesn't work out very well because they're a bad team. But with running back, you just wonder if that's the appropriate use of resources. So we could have that philosophical debate, not necessarily the point of this show, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that more when we get further along. And I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I actually think like the perfect landing spot for Love, and this would be unfortunate for me, would be Washington at 7. If he could go 7 and go play with Jaden Daniels, even with whatever issues they have on the O-line. Do you want me to lead us through our other Notre Dame Irishman here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Jadarian Price, who's pretty much RB2. I guess I shouldn't say that, actually. I have seen some Price skeptics out there who maybe have him a little further down the RB board, but most of the time you'll find him as RB2 on most boards. And then 3 years in a row, he's been between 5.8 and 6.2 yards per carry. And similar to Love, obviously, just never fully got the amount of work that he would have gotten in different colleges. And this one, even less so than Love. He had 47 carries in 2023, 120 carries in 2024, and then 113 carries in 2025. But incredibly efficient with all of them. He had an 8.37 relative athletic score, but especially great broad jump and especially great 40, which actually I thought was a little higher than I expected it to be. He was a highly recruited player, 4 stars. He had a 93 prospect grade coming out of high school. He was incredibly efficient his whole time. Like I just said, 5.8 plus yards per carry every season. His career 6.0 yards per carry. Career 10.8 yards per reception. He was excellent after contact runner, 4.28 yards per after contact per attempt. Great at breaking tackles. He breaks tackles at a very high rate. He had a 45% plus breakaway percentage last season. He's also electric on kick returns. Three kick returns and 22 attempts at Notre Dame, 36.1 yards per return.
Can we just say, if your backup running back has 3 kick returns for a touchdown and you only get 22 returns, that's bad special teams coaching. What are we doing,
Yeah.
Mark? What are we doing?
Well, he was pretty important.
It's one thing if he's your starting running, but like if he's your second running back and he's that good on kick returns, put the guy on kick returns.
He was pretty important though for us. That the back-to-back, the Love and Price combo was really nice to have to give. And we were talking about this off air, but I don't think this should like be a negative for either guy. But the efficiency that you saw from both Love 6.9 yards per carry each of the last 2 years, Jadarian 6+ yards per carry each of the last 2 years. What you're seeing, and that's under the Mike Denbrock system, which has been just the last 2 years. I think they were always going to be incredibly efficient. They're both incredible backs. But the fact that we were able to rotate them in and out and have them so fresh at all times, I do think helped both of them be even more efficient. And it's funny, like some Notre Dame fans thought Jadarian bounced it outside a little too often. I think he had the perfect kind of balance of bouncing it outside sometimes, but also being able to keep it inside. He's a great run finisher. Like he's kind of a bowling ball sometimes, with which you wouldn't expect with his speed and his ability and wanting to get outside. But I really like Price. I think Price would have been really interesting to see Price be a bell cow back at a different school. And I think he's built to be a bell cow back. So it'll be interesting to see. He does have a little bit of a fumbling issue, which really peaked his head out in 2025. But it's not something that was an issue before that. This is a piece from a couple of years ago. In 2022, he did tear his Achilles. So that is an old injury, but it's been 4 years. Hasn't had issues since then. I don't think he's missed let me take a look. Yeah, 13, 16, 12 games the last 3 years. I don't think he's missed a single game Notre Dame's played, or I can't even really remember a time he went out due to injury in any game and like had to be taken out of a game. So has been really durable over his 3 years there. Now you could say he only had 280 carries in those 3 years. So didn't have to be durable through that many carries. And he's not a receiving option, really, or at least he hasn't shown that to be. But the yards after contact, the ability to break it outside, the ability to run it inside, I do think that this is a guy who maybe not a 3-down back because he's not going to be a pass catcher, but great runner, and I think he's going to be a solid blocker as well.
Yeah, 3.92 yards after contact per attempt, 28.3% missed tackle force rate. I mentioned a lot of the same things I think he's got excellent vision. Does a really good job of following lead blockers on like pin pull concepts. Really good spatial awareness and processing. He does a really good job of setting up second level defenders to open cutback lanes. So I think he lacks some of that downhill power you would like in like short yardage situations. And he's got a little slower like stop-start ability than what is ideal if you're going to be like a one-cut style runner. So I think he moves behind the line like a zone runner. He's got that vision, that patience. He doesn't have quite that burst off of the one leg to get upfield into a one-cut as you would like for that ideal. But like I said, he can execute some of those gap concepts well. So, I think you could put him in any scheme. I think there's some pros and cons to using him in both. But overall, really solid running back, and I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL.
So, I forget your list. Did you have Jonah Coleman 3 as well as me?
I did not. He's number 4 for me.
Okay. I knew you had Coleman on the list. I didn't know if you had him 3 or 4, but now I know you have 3. Is there a pretty big gap in your opinion from 2 to 3?
No, I gave 2 and 3. 2 and 3, I gave both second round grades. For Price, it's more of like a early second, and I guess for Washington, it's more of a late second. So same round grade, but difference within that round for me. So let me, and you don't have Washington in your top 5, right?
I don't, but I get the vision.
Okay. So Mike Washington Jr. is number 3 on my list out of Mark's top 5. He is out of Arkansas via New Mexico State, via Buffalo. One of those unloyal guys, you might say, that we've joked about here before. But
by the way, something I noticed going through this, a lot of loyal running backs.
Yeah.
Love, Price, both the Penn State guys that I'll talk about. Le'Veon Moss, loyal. You could go farther down the list as well. A bunch of these guys, I don't know what that says. Running backs stay at one spot.
Running backs are loyal. Yeah. So Mike Washington Jr. was a 2-star recruit who committed to Buffalo, and he redshirted there as a freshman. In 2022, he was their leading rusher, but then in 2023, he was used less, and then he transferred to New Mexico State, where he played a season before he transferred to Arkansas. And at Arkansas, he had his best season of his career, rushing for 1,070 yards, 8 touchdowns, also had 226 receiving yards and a touchdown. He is 6'1", 223 pounds, ran a 4.33 40-yard dash, which is 97th percentile, 86th percentile 10-yard split, 91st percentile vertical leap, 93rd percentile broad jump. He is a little bit older prospect. He'll turn 23 years old before his rookie season starts. In 2025, he had 6.4 yards per carry, 3.86 yards after contact per attempt, forced a 20.3% missed tackle rate, and had 0.99 yards per route run. And so Washington's got good size. At 6'1", 223, he's built like an old school running back who can absorb physicality and keep plowing ahead. He is a downhill runner who wants to run through closing defenders and fall forward. And when you hear that part of the description, you don't expect a guy that runs a 4.33 40. Like, he has elite speed and explosiveness. He is surprisingly agile for his size. And those two things just don't normally go together. Like, normally we get the smaller school prospect that's got blazing speed and he wants to bounce everything and dance. And this guy wants to run you over, and he can run you over. And if he does run you over, a few steps later, he's running faster than anybody on the field, and you won't catch him. I think he reads blocks really well. He fumbles way too much. He's got 7 fumbles over the last 2 years. He does have stiffer hips. I mean, I said he's surprisingly agile for his size, but his size is still 6'1", 223. And so I think that is going to limit his ability to be like a one-cut, wide zone style running back. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I think that won't be his best usage. He's not a good pass protector. He's got poor technique. When he goes to take on contact, he bends at the waist and lunges instead of dropping his butt to set an anchor and absorb contact. And I mean, maybe that's nitpicking, but you do need to be able to pass protect to some degree at the NFL level. As a receiver, he was basically only used on screens and simple checkdowns. So this guy is a home run threat as a running back. You can use him in the pass game, but it's not fantastic. There's a lot of development needed there. But again, this is a 2-star guy that went from the MAC to Conference USA and then spent 1 year in a Power 5 at a Power 5 school. So not to denigrate the coaching at the MAC level and the Conference USA level, but he's only got 1 year of what we would consider top-notch coaching in the SEC. And so when you get him in the NFL, there's probably a lot of those things that you want to refine. So I put a second-round grade on him. I'd like to see him in more of an inside zone scheme. I think he's kind of more in the boom-bust type prospect list, because a lot of times we get these guys and they never put it together. If he does put it together, it could be pretty special to watch.
So this is one of the more polarizing players in the draft. It's really interesting, and this is something that goes beyond Shane's interest. But Mike Washington clip just started playing on my phone. Dynasty fantasy football. They do these crazy rookie. They talk a lot about rookies even before they get drafted. They're like projecting where they hope rookies get drafted for dynasty rankings and for rookie draft rankings and stuff. It's a whole industry talking about that. It's even actually a little too nerdy for me. But there are people in that industry who are like Mike Washington. We need him to go to like one of these 4 places, and he's going to be like a superstar who saves our dynasty leagues and all that stuff. And then there's some draft nerds out there who are like, I wouldn't take Mike Washington in the 7th round. Like, so it is very much, it goes both ways. I'm in the middle, I'd say, because I saw all the things that, like, the 10.0 RAS score has enough to get my attention always. So it makes you dive deeper. In my opinion, it doesn't ever look like this guy's running a 4.33 on film to me. Like, it's a guy who, in my opinion, tested way faster than I ever thought he looked on film. The fumbles are really concerning to me. And if you look at the fumbles, it's like, it's weird. It's fumbles in a lot of different ways. Fumbles with like minimal force, fumbles on a big hit, fumbles like kind of like off of your own leg. Like he has kind of like a variety of fumbles a little bit that are, this was a tweet from Marcus Whitman that I saw. He's a draft Twitter guy out there. He wrote, I don't know if I've written as many weaknesses for a running back as I have for Mike Washington. And I think a lot of them go back to people criticizing his tape at Buffalo and New Mexico State. Because I think his tape is mostly pretty good at Arkansas, which maybe is all that should count, which is it's in the SEC. It's his most recent year, all that stuff. But if you take he was 4.3 yards per carry in 3 years at Buffalo, 4.6 yards per carry in his 1 year at New Mexico State. I think there's people out there who are worried about that kind of 50-year breakout after 4 years of pretty limited production at pretty low levels. It's pretty shocking that Arkansas even pegged this guy as a guy who could have the explosion he did. I guess you see the athletic traits when you put on the film anyway, but I'm intrigued. He would be RB6 or 7 for me. He won't be in my top 100, but part of what I was asking when I asked about RB2 and RB3, I actually, how I have the RBs ranked this year, Love's my number 1 player in the whole draft. Jadarian Price is a 2nd rounder, like in the 40s probably. Jonah Coleman is I have him as a 3rd currently. He's getting closer to that top 50 for me. He's probably in the 60-ish range. After that, I don't have another guy in my top 100 as of right now. So my RB4, my RB5 are not going to be in my top 100 as of now. So I see Mike Washington could easily be my RB4. Like, there's not anything really separating my RB4 from my RB8, to be honest.
All right. Yeah, anybody that says they wouldn't take, like, if a guy that has the worst tape in the world runs a 4.33 at the combine and you say you wouldn't take him with a 7th round pick, I think you're insane. Like, 7th round pick, I'm literally just picking off the top of the RAS chart at that point. Give me an athlete and maybe we'll hit and get lucky. But yeah, so that's Mike Washington. I get the differing opinions on him for sure. He's kind of an into the 2nd round guy for me. So Jonah Coleman was your number 3, correct?
Yeah. Jonah Coleman.
He's my number 4. He's your number 3, so I'll let you lead us off here. Talk to me about Coleman.
Yeah, short, dense build, great feet, great lateral quickness, great balance. I thought that was something I really noted on this guy. I really think he's got great balance, and you can see that he has the fourth. Shane does this to me. I get to do it to him. You're never going to get these, but fourth best missed tackles forced per carry since 2014, only behind 3 running backs who have all went on to be very good in the NFL. So that's a little help. But who are the top 3 running backs since 2014 in missed tackles forced in college?
I at least ask you reasonable questions about the NFL.
They're all very good. Two are very good, and one is good. He's good. He's a starter. No, actually, same draft though. We just talked about one of the guys.
Jonathan Taylor, Bijan.
Bijan's one. We also talked about one of the other guys too.
Saquon.
No, this one surprised me. It's Genty. Genty was 2.
Okay,
actually, and you're never going to get this one. But
his missed tackle rate was high.
David Montgomery is 3. But I thought that was interesting that list, like you'd think there'd be like a 5-6 running back from ECU on it or something that kind of throws off a lot of those lists. I thought it was interesting that the top 3 of that category have translated. Well, I guess Genty hasn't translated well yet, but we all imagine he will. And then Bijan and Montgomery have translated really well to the NFL. I thought that was interesting. But above average receiving upside for Coleman, about 30 receiving yards per game, 1.73 yard per route run. High TD production upside, which is always a good workhorse indicator. That's a dynasty fantasy football term, Shane. When they like when the high TD players, because it's a workhorse indicator coming out. Elite ball security, 0.36% career fumble rate. In college. And this is something interesting. I saw a couple, I don't know if scouting reports or write-ups on him kind of questioning the pass protection. And then I watched it, and then I saw other scouting reports talking about how great the pass protection was. I think PFF graded it pretty low, but I think I actually felt like it was really good. And he had a great quote about it at the Combine. They asked him why he takes pass protection so seriously and why it's so important. He said, "You're not going to play if you can't pass pro. It's simple. You're paying $100 million to a quarterback. I'm getting paid $2 million. Who's more important?" I thought that was a pretty good thing you want to hear out of a running back that's going to go on like day 2. And then Adam Carter, I'm not going to flash this one up there because it's not a full chart of the day, but the closest production comp for Jonah Coleman in terms of college, if you look at touchdown percentage, missed tackles forced, elusiveness rating, receiving yards per game, yards per route run, total yards per game, all that stuff, almost a direct comp to Bucky Irving coming out of Oregon. And Bucky Irving also has panned out pretty well. We'll see what happens with his injuries. It seems like he might have some real problems staying healthy, which is a real shame. Yeah. But Jonah Coleman, really, really similar production-wise to Bucky Irving coming out. So, and I could see I could see some Bucky similarities there, even just on tape as well.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, for what it's worth, I said that I thought he was solid as a pass protector. So 3.58 yards after contact per attempt, 1.73 yards per route run this year, 23.5% missed tackle force rate. He's got excellent contact balance, and he runs like a bowling ball, right? He's hard to tackle. He bounces off of guys. He's got tremendous lower body strength. Excels at getting yards after contact. He gets lower than you, and he's hard to bring down. He never stops moving his feet. I don't think he has elite top-end speed. He wins with patience and vision, not with explosiveness. And then I tagged him with a medical red flag because he did sustain a knee injury in November that limited him down the stretch of his final season. And so the medical checks for that are going to be huge. What teams think of that? It's not like he's not a guy that's been often injured. He's just coming off of that injury. And so you're not going to get the explosiveness testing from him, and you will ask questions about that. So I tagged him with a medical red flag. I will mention, though, went to Arizona and Washington both. This is a loyal guy, right? he left Arizona to go to Washington to follow his head coach. So some transfers the grumpy old guy on this show is okay with, and some he's not. Jonah Coleman gets the stamp of loyalty. It's as if he never transferred. And I gave him a 3rd-round grade said he'd be best in an inside zone scheme. So that is Jonah Coleman. Let's see. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Kaytron Allen.
Okay, take Kaytron Allen because I'm to my number 5.
Yeah, I'll be quicker on these last guys because, again, there's not a big separation from RB4 to RB8 for me. But Kaytron Allen, 4-year contributor at Penn State, stayed there all 4 years, over 165 carries in every single year, but no year with more than 220. Because similar to Notre Dame, they've had 2 running backs there for the last 4 years that have split time in Allen and Singletary. He's been over 5 yards per carry each year he's been there all 4 years, 2,411 rushing yards over the last 2 years, 43 touchdowns over the last 4 years, and 25 touchdowns over the last 2 years. He's had his best year in his senior year with 1,303 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns on 6.2 yards per carry. He gets compared to Singletary a lot, obviously, same college and same backfield, and they're both coming out at the same time. They're both kind of looking like fringe kind of round 3, round 4 guys, but Singletary seems to be ranked higher than him everywhere, which I don't really get. Allen has a higher missed tackle rate than Singletary, higher breakaway rate, lower negative play rate, which I really think is the big thing when it comes to Allen versus Singletary. Singletary definitely looking to bounce things more, and Allen definitely willing to take more what the defense gives you. I think there's, like, Allen, to me, not David Montgomery's a weird comp to make for Allen, but I mean like that level of guy where I feel like he could kind of step into the NFL and be RB, 20. Like, be like the 20th best running back, and that guy who can be a solid starter like Montgomery was for the Bears, or kind of be that complement to another great back like Montgomery was for Detroit. Like, I could see Allen kind of slotting in pretty nicely as kind of that solid guy who's going to take what the defense is given and kind of be pretty efficient always. And it's interesting that he had his best year as a senior year. This was a guy who a couple years ago had a lot more buzz, and the buzz is just kind of gone for Kaytron. And for Singletary, the buzz is gone, but you understand more why, because he had his worst season as a senior. I'll wrap Singletary up into it because I don't have much to say on it. Singletary is my number 5, and the difference between Allen and Singletary is you look at Allen's 4 years, it's pretty consistent. Like, you kind of know what he is over those 4 years, whereas Singletary, elite freshman and junior years in 2022 and 2024. Weird, really disappointing seasons in 2023 and 2025 in his sophomore and senior years. The upside you see in those, like, I could understand the argument of the upside you see in those freshman and junior years might be higher than anything we've seen from Kaytron Allen, especially his junior season in 2024, 800 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, 12 rushing touchdowns. And in that year, he had 41 catches, really flashing an excellent ability to catch the ball and make things happen with it once he has it. But we haven't really seen that any other year. I mean, you can blame that on the offense. You can blame that on Drew Aller, whatever you want to blame that on. It's like, do you take the A Penn State running back who has shown the higher highs, maybe has a higher upside, or do you take the B who I think maybe a bit more of a sure thing, who I'm more sure is an NFL running back and will take what's given a bit more often and has shown more consistency over the 4 years? So they're basically tied for me, but I gave Allen the nod over Singletary.
All right. What round grades did you have on those guys again?
Day 3 guys. Those are going to be early day 3 guys for me. They'll be outside the top 100, and I'm sure if I go farther than top 100 ranking wise, like Allen, Singletary, Moss, Washington, a couple, they'll all kind of be in the same.
Gotcha. All right. Well, my number 5 is Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. Loyal guy at Nebraska his whole career. Gets a thumbs up there. He's a 3-star recruit who redshirted in 2022. He was a rotational player in 2023 and 2024 before he became the lead back in 2025. And he eclipsed 1,000 yards for the first time that a Nebraska running back has done that in almost a decade. 251 carries, 1,451 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He also had 370 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Over the last 2 years, he has over 600 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. So he is a threat out of the backfield. As a runner, 5.8 yards per attempt, 2.95 yards after contact per attempt, and a 27.1% missed tackle force rate. with 1.27 yards per route run. 5'10", 202 pounds, ran a 4.56 40, 9th percentile 3-cone, 59th percentile broad jump, 42nd percentile short shuttle, about 22 and a half years old. I think Johnson's a patient runner who has great vision. He does a good job of pressing the line of scrimmage before he finds a crease and bursts through into daylight. And honestly, like I mentioned his 3-cone, his agility testing just doesn't make sense to me. He is an elusive runner with great footwork who can string together moves in the open field. So I don't know what was going on at the combine, but this is a guy whose agility testing doesn't match what I watched. And where they're that far apart, I start to wonder what I missed and go back and look, but I'm not just going to throw it out because I thought he looks really agile on the field. He can get skinny through small creases. He very rarely takes a big hit. He's just a hard guy to square up and hit solidly. Really capable receiver out of the backfield. Like I mentioned, 286 receiving yards 2 years ago, 370 yards receiving last year, 5 total touchdowns over those 2 years. He's a high motor player. I do think he is prone to chasing big plays outside the tackles instead of taking what's blocked up, which is kind of funny because he's not a burner where you usually see that from the 4-3 guys. He's a 4-5-6 guy, but he does chase those big plays at times. And then he just doesn't have the top end speed to rip them off. And we mentioned pass protection earlier, but he's got poor technique and poor awareness as a pass blocker. He's not a guy that you necessarily want on the field in those situations, but he's a good receiver. And so it gets you in this conundrum of like, I need you to be a passable pass blocker so we can have you on the field in passing downs. And if the defense shows blitz, we can have you read that out and block instead of go out on routes. Like that's an element of his game that will give him a lot more value if he develops that. So I have a late 3rd round grade on him. I think he'll be a good rotational piece in like a zone heavy scheme. I wish he was faster. I wish his pass blocking was better. I think you can fix one of those two things when you get to the next level though.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, he's a guy who's right in that mix for me as well.
Yeah. So, all right. That is my number 5. And Nick Singleton would have been my honorable mention. Do you have any guys you want to shout out honorable mention wise? I didn't dig too far here because I figured the Eagles just aren't probably taking a running back. So I didn't search day 3 too hard.
This is a late guy, and this is just a guy I've really liked at Texas A&M. Le'Veon Moss. He's so tantalizingly talented. He just can't stay healthy at all. Only 32 games played over the last 4 years, 5.5 yards per carry in his career, but he had a special 2024 season, 765 yards at 121 carries for 6.3 yards per carry, at 10 touchdowns. He had 85 yards per game in that year. And when you watched him that year, he was really special to watch. And then even this year, he really killed Notre Dame to open the year, and he tore his ACL, and he's had just so many issues, and he doesn't have receiving upside. So I understand why he's probably going to go round 6 or round 7. I do think there's a chance, though, if he is able to stay healthy and is able to catch on with a team and is able to get carries, he's going to be efficient with them. He's just a really good runner and really, really just efficient and tantalizing when he's able to stay on the field. But unfortunately, he's just not able to. But had to shout him out there. 16 touchdowns over the last 2 years, despite only having like 190 carries. Really, really interesting, fun player when he is out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to about do it for our running back rankings. Again, a little shorter show today, partially because there's not a lot of day 1 and 2 running back talent this year, partially because the Eagles are not probably in the market for one. But next week, I think we're doing top 8 receivers, and then we'll do our top 10 offensive linemen. So have a couple longer shows, and then we will be done with our draft rankings. But Mark, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts that you want to drop on the people?
No, running back. I will say one thing about running back. I try not to freak out too much about athletic scores either way. And this year, I think it's gotten better where a lot of guys who aren't going to test well just don't test. Like you don't see Kyren Williams situations happen very often anymore. But we've just seen so many running backs who test poorly. Kyren Williams is the poster child for it. and you're like, man, I really like this guy on film. I really like this guy in college. And I can't believe it was that bad. I would just side with what you think you know over what the testing was at running back more than any other position. Running back's the one position that I think testing might matter the least for, or it's up there. So that would be what I would say.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 231 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcast to help us get the show out there to other people. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Haff NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.